So we move to the first race of the season in Melbourne, Albert Park, Australia, with the Formula One crew, Formula One race brewing. We are going to be having the very first interesting race this season, and this first race should tell us how really the cars, the drivers, and the teams might stack up for the season, which probably should give us an interesting overview of the technicalities of the 2026 racing rules and technology in which the F1 had brought in. And it should also tell us how long these rules, these new engines should last. Because I think for me, these new engines should only go probably 2-3 years. Because screamingly, I would say we need to go back to the V8, the V10, probably V12s. Sustainable fuel. This is Formula One. This is not Formula E. But that being said, let's get into the details. Made a lot of videos on the race courses in Australia and how the Australian GP has been held since 1928. So you can check some of our old videos and you would see some of this in there. I think 2 years ago I made a video on that. So you can quickly check a video 2 years ago. But a quick one. We've had 23 different venues for racing Formula One cars since 1928 in Australia. And the Australian GP has been one of the oldest GPs in Formula One. But we finally moved to Albert Park in Melbourne since 1966. So the race for this weekend will be held in Albert Park, Melbourne, Australia, and to be a 58 lap race with a race length of 306.124 kilometers. That's about 190 to 116 miles. The circuit length is a 5.278 kilometers. That's 3.280 miles. And the funny thing about this is it's an hybrid track. It's a combination of both the street and the racing track. So it's an hybrid track and it's a very interesting track to come to. And also Melbourne is so fun. You can have 4 seasons in a whole day. I could remember a race, I think it was last year, no, it was 2 years ago, that we had a lot of collisions, dry, wet. It will be dry on some part of the track, wet on some parts. So it could be very, very funny and very, very interesting race to see. Let's get to Melbourne. I think it will be very interesting this year. Ferrari has won 14 constructor races in Australia. Schumacher winning 4 for the prancing horse, and as one of the most drivers to have won more races in Australia, we've had Lex Davison also winning 4. Last year we had pole position Lando Norris, and it was a very treacherous race last year with rain. This first race of the season, rain, dry, washed a lot of tears away. As it should. Lando Norris taking the pole position by 1 minute 15 seconds, and in 900th, Lando Norris winning the race and Lando Norris setting the fastest lap of the race. Max Verstappen coming second and George Russell coming third. Moving into this current new year, are we going to be having the same pole time? I think it might be a little bit different because a lot of teams will be bringing upgrades. We saw how those teams fared in Bahrain. A lot of teams are still hiding their performance. We believe Mercedes is still hiding performance. Red Bull slid under to hide their engine performances for the Red Bull powertrain. Audi looks like the dark horse. Yeah, they look like the dark horse. Cadillac could be a good surprise with the American team following the suit of the other American team in the Ferrari engine. But we don't know yet for the Aston Martin team, as they still have their whole commotion inside for the powertrain and the Newey design. A lot of speculations are online that Honda are not happy with Andre Newey, and Honda are like, oh, we built a very, very strong powertrain, but something is wrong. The battery boxes vibration are affecting them. The power unit is not cooling enough as a result of the design, so they are having a whole lot of headache to deal with. So we don't know yet for that team. Maybe from race 4, race 6, they might pick up, which might be too late. Every point you can gather from your first race, you gather it in Formula One. You don't gather it, you're far behind. And we might see a resurgence of some very intelligent drivers in Formula One. So looking at the tire strategy, we should be having a C3, C4, C5. With the C3 being the hard tire, C4 being the medium tire, and C5 being the soft tire. Probably we'll be having a 2-stop race. That is, if you are going by what happened last year, you should be having a two-stop race. These are new generation of tires. Also, they are focused on the 18-inch but a different configuration. The front tires are 25 millimeters narrower, while rear tires are 30 millimeters narrower. They are completely different technology. And I told you earlier this week that the outgoing Pirelli tire person is going out to having somebody coming in to head that aspect of Pirelli business. We should be expecting something much more interesting this year. These tires are brought in to give more competition, probably give the dynamics of how the tires eat up, as we've had tires eating up for some cars late, some cars earlier. Some teams are able to quickly get around it. So we're having something new to give them a different way to think, this year. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these cars and how these drivers are able to use the tires. Now, for the probability of rain in Albert Park, we're looking at the weather conditions for this weekend. It suggested a mix of dry condition to potential rain, not real rain but potential rain. We're looking at having temperatures dropping from 26 degrees to about 13 degrees in the evenings, and a 40% chance of rain, which might change. The Friday practice is expected to be sunny, having as high as 20 degrees, while Saturday qualifying and the race shows some little risk of shower. Melbourne is brought that many times that might create a threatening situation for the new cars racing in the rain and the new tires. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that goes. If there is really rain, there is a 40% chance of rain, which might dwindle down a little, which might change the dynamics of the racing. When you have rain change, it changes the whole dynamics of the race in Albert Park and probably who wins the race. But we should be having the F2, F3 races also this weekend in Albert Park. And as you know, it's a different racing technology. We're having the the overtake mode and everything. We are going to be having some changes on how these cars run, especially in overtake mode. We might still be making mistakes of calling some DRSs, which should not be. So for this season, you have to bear with us. The changing of the season, you have to bear with us. And also, who do you think will win this race? I think it's a speculation. I think it's going to be an easy race for anybody, but I will tip it out to be a race between three constructors. The Red Bull, the Mercedes, and the Ferrari have the chances of taking this race. And in what sense? Red Bull have the strongest and the most reliable powertrain. The Mercedes are having a powertrain that can expand, though there are new rules to check that, but there's no way you can really find that out when these engines are hot. The teams are going to determine that, but it will be very, very complicated, as Mercedes can do a lot of tricks inside that, but they will still use the same engine to start the season. And Ferrari are having a lot of back home fans, which won't help them. But what I think should help them is they've stepped into this technology far long enough, since they knew they are losing the 2025, so they delve into the 2026. They've learned a lot. I think they have the experience to gather up. I think those three teams should step it up. McLaren, to start this season, might be a dark horse. They might also prove to have the antidote for this season's challenge. So I think it's going to be very interesting. But to name which driver should win the race, after the qualifying, we should be able to say, okay, fine, this driver looks strong on the long runs. Qualifying lap times, this person looks very, very diligent and very, very successful. So we should be able to see that. But now you can say. But all in all, it's going to be very interesting to see how this races will pan out this year. And this first race, how is going to be very, very interesting. You don't want to miss it out. Going to Albert Park, I want to say we'll see you there in the first race. I love you guys. Also, for the tickets, you might have tickets going from as low as $90 to over $5,000. It depends on the VIP or the VVIP or where you want to be on the track or in Albert Park. But it's going to be interesting if you're there. You can give a shout out to your agent. We love you. See you on the next one. Yeah, bye.